Ukraine's $1,000 drone annihilated Russia's most expensive air defense system, right where it was supposed to be invincible. This isn't just a battlefield loss. It exposes a vulnerability in the very systems meant to protect Russia's nuclear assets and critical war corridors. But the weapon designed to kill drones couldn't even see one coming. But what happened next shattered the illusion of Russian superiority. But this wasn't an isolated hit. It was part of a systematic campaign that neutralized over $100 million in elite Russian tech, using drones cheaper than a smartphone. And what Ukraine revealed goes far beyond tactics, because it's already changing how the next war will be fought. In less than a minute, Russia's invincible air defense systems went from global showcases to global embarrassments. The footage, released by Ukraine's Directorate of Intelligence, wasn't classified. It was published for the world to see. Ukraine filmed every detail. The moment the first Panzer missile missed, the impact on the combat module, the destruction of a $100 million Buk M3 system. These weren't leaks or accidents. They were strategic broadcasts. The message was clear: no Russian asset is safe. Every destroyed vehicle became a propaganda tool and a psychological weapon. The images spread instantly across Telegram, YouTube, and open-source channels. But the consequences didn't stop with Russia's troops. These systems had been exported to more than 10 countries, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil, sold as cutting-edge, drone-proof defenses. But after seeing them destroyed by drones that cost less than a used smartphone, military officials around the world were forced to confront a painful question: did we spend millions on systems that simply don't work? The damage wasn't just physical, it was reputational. Russia's military brand, built over decades and billions in arms exports, was being dismantled in real time. A $1,000 drone wasn't just destroying hardware, it was erasing trust. But it goes deeper. Every time a system is neutralized, Russia must choose: either pull defenses from other regions or leave occupied territory exposed. According to Ukrainian estimates, Russia is losing nearly one air defense system per day, between 300 and 350 units per year. They simply cannot replace them fast enough due to sanctions and component shortages. And here's the twist: to compensate, Russia began deploying inflatable replicas, fake systems mocked to fool low-resolution satellites. It's not just desperation, it's dysfunction at scale. But this isn't the end of the spiral, because what happens next reveals a shift far more dangerous than any destroyed vehicle. In June 2025, in the Zaporizhzhia region, Ukraine destroyed Russia's most expensive air defense systems, right in the heart of a zone considered untouchable. These weren't outdated relics. They were Pantsir S-1 units, the pride of Russia's short-range defenses, each costing $15 million and sold globally as indestructible. The Pantsir is often described as Russia's last line of defense. It combines radar, missiles, and 30mm automatic cannons on a single truck-mounted platform. Its job? To eliminate drones before they can get close. It's been exported to over 10 countries, including Brazil and Iran, promoted as a fail-safe barrier against modern threats. The system was designed to lock, track, and kill aerial targets automatically, even those flying low and fast. But something happened that shattered this image. A Ukrainian drone, flying at low altitude, easily penetrated the Pantsir's defensive perimeter. The Russian crew followed protocol, first launching a $50,000 missile. It missed. Then they fired the cannons, destroying the drone. But that was exactly the trap. A second drone, already inbound, struck the system just seconds later, right when the vehicle began relocating, as dictated by standard Russian procedure. This wasn't a lucky hit. It was a precise strike at the combat module, the brain of the weapon. That's what experts call a mission kill. The system wasn't obliterated, but it was rendered useless. It couldn't fire again. A $15 million machine turned into a powerless shell, and it wasn't the only one. In the same region, a second drone hit a much more advanced Buk M3 system, worth $100 million, right in the radar. One strike and it went blind. But here's where the tension escalates. These attacks didn't rely on alien technology. Ukraine used basic drones, guided via fiber optics, immune to jamming. Final targeting was done by onboard AI, executing the strike with machine precision. These weren't just attacks. They were a message, and that message was clear. Russia's most trusted systems had a fatal flaw. But what made this attack even more devastating wasn't just the destruction, it was the psychology behind it. The footage was filmed by Ukraine's Directorate of Intelligence. It wasn't hidden, it was published, broadcasted, weaponized for morale and fear. What Ukraine did next would escalate everything even further. Russia is not just losing air defense systems, it's losing its ability to protect strategic territory. And nowhere is that more dangerous than in Zaporizhzhia. This region isn't just another front. It holds Europe's largest nuclear power plant and serves as a critical link in the Russian land bridge to Crimea. Since 2022, Putin has turned the nuclear plant into a shield, placing troops and equipment inside the complex to deter Ukrainian strikes. Every system destroyed around this area weakens the security of that shield. But this strategy is collapsing. According to Ukrainian reports, each successful drone strike removes one more layer of Russian protection. Without reliable air defense, the nuclear facility becomes exposed, and the land corridor connecting Russia to Crimea becomes fragile. And that corridor isn't optional. Without it, Crimea depends solely on the Kerch Bridge, which has already been targeted multiple times. But it gets worse. Ukraine's use of fiber optic guided drones makes them immune to Russian jamming, and onboard AI systems complete the strike even if communication is cut. This means that even Russia's most sophisticated defenses can't adapt fast enough to stop them. Meanwhile, Russia is scrambling to fill the gaps. Satellite images confirmed by open-source analysts show decoy systems, inflatable replicas, being deployed across front lines. These fakes might confuse a satellite, but they can't shoot down anything. But there's another layer of damage: the psychological impact. Russian soldiers now operate under constant drone fear. They've even coined a term for it: drone shock. Anxiety, sleep disorders, and combat fatigue are spreading across units, reducing morale and operational readiness. But this wasn't just about local defense. It was part of a larger pattern, a methodical dismantling of Russia's shield. And the next target isn't just a machine, it's a turning point. In April 2025, Ukraine destroyed 3 Russian Buk M3 systems in less than 12 hours. These were not isolated incidents. They marked the start of a coordinated shift. According to Ukraine's Directorate of Intelligence, these strikes weren't opportunistic. They were part of a broader pattern called shaping operations, military maneuvers designed to dismantle enemy defenses before a major offensive. The targets were carefully chosen: combat modules, radar arrays, mobile units. Each strike created a new hole in the Russian defensive shield, and these gaps weren't being filled. But here's the breaking point: Russia cannot replace what it's losing. Sanctions have blocked access to critical electronics, and domestic production is too slow. As stated in open-source defense reports, Russia is losing 300 to 350 air defense systems per year, almost one per day. It's not just unsustainable, it's irreversible in the short term. While Ukraine expands drone production using low-cost materials and AI integration, Russia is resorting to inflatable decoys. These fakes serve only one purpose: to trick satellites. But they can't fire, they can't protect. They expose Russia's growing vulnerability. But the collapse isn't only material, it's strategic. With defenses shrinking across Zaporizhzhia and Crimea, Ukraine is methodically eroding the corridor that connects mainland Russia to the occupied south. If this land bridge is broken, Russian forces in Crimea will be isolated and their resupply lines severed. But the psychological fallout might be even more dangerous. Troops in the region face constant drone threats. Ukrainian videos of precision strikes are flooding Russian channels, serving not just as propaganda, but as weapons of fear. And there's a final detail that changes everything. These operations are no longer just defense, they're preparation for something much bigger. Ukraine is no longer reacting, it's planning, and every destroyed Russian defense system is a step in a larger strategy. In military doctrine, this tactic is known as a shaping operation. It's not about territory, it's about weakening the enemy before the real attack begins. Each drone strike opens a hole in Russia's air shield. Each broadcasted video demoralizes not just one unit, but entire chains of command. These strikes follow a calculated formula. A decoy drone forces a response, reveals the system's position, drains ammunition, and then comes the real hit. Targeting isn't random. Drones strike where it matters most: radars, control modules, launch systems. The goal is not to destroy the vehicle, but to neutralize its function. But the most dangerous shift is psychological. Ukrainian forces aren't hiding these tactics, they're showing them. Videos are posted openly on Telegram, YouTube, and other platforms. Each image of a Russian system exploding isn't just documentation, it's deterrence. It tells Russian soldiers, "We know where you are, and we know how to get to you." But the problem for Russia is deeper. They can't stop the attacks, and they can't match the scale. Sanctions block access to components. Domestic factories can't meet the demand. So, as confirmed by satellite imagery and Western intelligence, they've resorted to using inflatable decoys, fake air defense systems meant to fool low-resolution satellites. But deception only delays the inevitable. With each real system lost, the land bridge to Crimea becomes harder to defend. If that corridor collapses, Russian forces in Crimea will be isolated, cut off from reinforcements and supply. But something else is happening behind these strikes. A pattern that suggests these aren't just isolated blows, but preparations for a final move. What happened in Zaporizhia wasn't just a tactical strike. It exposed a strategic pattern Ukraine has been executing across all occupied territories. Since March 2025, Ukraine has launched a series of coordinated operations targeting high-value air defense systems. In Crimea, Pantsir units were destroyed with the exact same tactic. In April, 3 Buk M3s were taken out in under 12 hours. And in June, besides the Zaporizhia operation, another advanced system was neutralized elsewhere. These were not coincidences, they were rehearsals. Each attack followed a precise method: decoy drones to bait defenses, followed by AI-guided strikes that disabled critical components. The goal wasn't total destruction, it was paralysis. Ukraine wasn't trying to wipe out Russian systems. It was trying to open holes, gaps wide enough for something bigger to pass through. But what came next revealed the real purpose. Ukrainian analysts confirmed that every destroyed system aligned with the territory of the so-called Russian land bridge, the corridor connecting Russia to Crimea. And with each air defense loss, that corridor weakens. But here's the revelation that changes everything. These aren't reactive strikes. They're part of a larger military doctrine known as shaping operations. It's a tactic used to systematically dismantle enemy defenses before a major offensive. Ukraine is preparing the battlefield, not just defending it. But that preparation comes with a cost for Russia. With gaps forming in their air coverage and their most advanced systems now unreliable, Russian generals are facing an impossible choice: protect the corridor or protect Crimea. They can't do both, and this is where the pressure peaks. Because if Ukraine breaks the land bridge and reaches the Sea of Azov, Russian troops in Crimea will be isolated, surrounded, and cut off. But what's coming next isn't just about drones or corridors. It's about how modern war itself is being rewritten. Ukraine executed a precise drone strike that neutralized some of Russia's most advanced air defense systems in Zaporizhia. It wasn't an isolated event. It was the turning point of a broader strategic campaign. The Ukrainian drone operation destroyed both Pantsir and Buk M3 systems, valued between $15 and $100 million each. Using fiber optic controlled drones equipped with AI for terminal guidance, Ukraine bypassed traditional electronic warfare. These strikes specifically targeted radar modules and combat controls, rendering the systems blind and useless without destroying them entirely. Videos of these attacks were published on Telegram and YouTube by Ukraine's own intelligence services, serving both as proof and psychological tools. But the most significant impact wasn't just tactical, it was systemic. Russia is losing up to 1 air defense system per day and is unable to replace them due to international sanctions and production constraints. Moscow is now deploying inflatable decoys in place of real systems to deceive satellites, signaling logistical collapse and desperation. The psychological toll among Russian troops has intensified, with reports of drone shock, a constant fear of invisible, unstoppable threats from above. Ukraine is demonstrating a new doctrine of warfare, shaping operations that rely not on brute force, but on surgical disruption. For the price of a smartphone, Ukraine is eliminating systems worth tens of millions. Traditional defense exporters like Russia are watching their global reputation erode, while nations like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil begin to question their investments. It's no longer about firepower, it's about intelligence, adaptability, and precision. But these victories are more than symbolic. They are cumulative. Each air defense gap opened by Ukraine brings it one step closer to isolating Crimea and cutting Russia's land bridge. And yet one question remains. Is this just a preparation phase for a much larger offensive? If drone warfare can dismantle an empire's defenses, what's next in Ukraine's playbook? The real shift may not be what was destroyed, but what is about to begin. The war has transformed into a contest of precision, where intelligence and adaptation have overtaken brute force. Superiority is no longer defined by firepower, but by the ability to destabilize an enemy at a fraction of the cost. This new military paradigm redraws the boundaries of warfare and places the global strategic balance under constant threat. But with systems collapsing and alliances under strain, the next rupture may not come from Ukraine. It could strike at a far more fragile point in the world's security architecture.